This episode of the MultimediaJay Show is brought to you by Thunder Dude Baked Beans. Check out their sizzling hot new flavor this summer, Thunder Dude Baked Beans Inferno. Thunder Dude Baked Beans. Life is fun when you feel the thunder. Let's start the show.
Howdy folks, Jason here, aka MultimediaJay.
What is up, everybody?
This is the MultimediaJay Show for June 24th, 2012. Today's show topic is the alleged post-PC era. And now, the man himself, MultimediaJay.
Howdy, folks. Oh, yes. What a way to start out a new series on this channel. All that bravado and Sunday stuff and rock music, and what do? Howdy, folks. Let's try that again. What is up, everybody? This is the MultimediaJay Show. And I am, of course, MultimediaJay. I gotta work on the whole starting the show off with some bravado and stuff like that, because this is kind of antithetical here to have all this howdy, folks. I'll work on that. Anyways, welcome to my first attempt at a full-length podcast. Why? Am I nuts? Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to introduce the MultimediaJay Show, compare it to things like, say, RadioStyle and whatnot. We're going to talk about some stuff that's been in the news, and today's topic is going to be the alleged post-PC era. This is something I've wanted to chime in on for a long time, but a lot of things have kept me from doing that. One of them being length. There is so much I can say about the post-PC era, or what people are calling the post-PC era, that it is just too darn big for me to fit into any of my existing formats of videos that go on YouTube. So, what do you know? Something bigger and bigger than anything I'm doing before. Let's just start a whole new series, etc. So, let's begin here. First and foremost, a full-length podcast on YouTube when I already have the RadioStyle series. Have I lost my mind? No. This is, the MultimediaJay Show is going to be notably different from RadioStyle, both in format, length, and what it covers and things like that. So I figured, let's just introduce the whole show and things like that. Now, I started the RadioStyle series as a replacement for doing video blogs, because I figured it'd be a lot more interesting to put some of my audio mixing background and skills to use. And instead of just turning on a camera, hey, what's up, folks, MultimediaJay here, blah, 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 and putting up videos of me just sitting in front of the camera talking. I personally considered video blogging to be kind of a waste of bandwidth, because a lot of the video blogs I'm seeing where people either pepper the thing with jump cuts or just sit there like, this is how my day went, and I went to the store, and I did this, I know all of that has never really appealed to me. So I figured with my background, having done some college radio, people telling me for years that I should find some way to get involved in radio or broadcasting, it'd be great to get some practice in with some decent equipment and a series that made use of that kind of an environment and stuff like that. Plus, I found RadioStyle to be easier to do than video blogs, because you don't have to worry about, oh, okay, so I'm talking, all of a sudden a picture falls off the wall or the calendar falls down or something like that. Much, much, much easier. So overall, I'd say RadioStyle has done pretty well, but there have to be limits to something like that, because the current format of MultimediaJay RadioStyle is kind of like a slideshow. I have a regular text blog, which I can use for quick responses to news stories and commentary on tech developments and stuff like that. And then I have RadioStyle, where if I want to start incorporating some visuals and stuff like that, I can make like a slideshow type segment. And it's best to keep them to like 15 minutes or less and include all relevant visuals, etc. This, however, for the big long discussions, will be a full-length podcast, which means nothing less than 30 minutes. And that's where we gotta draw the line here. One of the things I wanted to do with RadioStyle was make something that people could listen to while they were doing stuff on their computers. And that kind of didn't pan out. Because I wanted to put more visuals in and make RadioStyle more like a slideshow, the whole just listen to it thing kind of fell by the wayside. So for something of this length, we're not even going to bother with graphics. We're going to have a graphic saying the MultimediaJay show on post-PC or whatever, and that'll just be the video part of this. Because when we're talking about something that's 30 minutes and designed to sound like a talk radio type thing, we don't want people to have to wonder if they're going to be missing something if they're not constantly looking at a YouTube video of someone just talking and stuff like that. Plus, this is kind of what other folks do, except in shorter amounts. When they there's lots of channels on YouTube where the so-called videos consist of people just talking with a picture for their video part, and I think some of that has to do with the landscape as far as podcasting and vidcasting goes, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But overall, that's going to be the big difference between this and RadioStyle. RadioStyle will be a single topic. Maybe at 15 minutes, the thing's getting long. It'll be like a slideshow. This, however, will be a full-length podcast with a formal layout, and it is designed to be listened to. So if you've got like World of Warcraft going or something like that with the volume at 30%, like I sometimes do when listening to some video bloggers on YouTube, you're going to be right at home here, because this is basically going to have more audio than anything else that I'm doing on here. So without further ado, let's talk about some other differences between RadioStyle and the full-length show that we're doing here. So is RadioStyle redundant? No, it isn't. RadioStyle will be on smaller individual segments with visuals. The big show, these things, will be entire full-length shows without visuals. So just crank up the volume and listen in while you're doing whatever on your computer or smartphone or whatever you access YouTube from, because I know there's a lot of ways one can watch or listen to YouTube stuff these days. Speaking of YouTube, let's talk about this. Why YouTube? Why, if I'm doing an audio podcast, am I just tossing this up on YouTube? Well, here's the thing. One unfortunate part of this whole Web 2.0 social stuff, whatever you want to call it, that's the internet's been for the past 6, 7, 8, 9, almost 10 years actually since YouTube launched. A couple more years and they'll be at the big 1.0. One of the big problems is that there is no YouTube for audio. Don't try to tell me otherwise. I've already looked exhaustively for something that does what YouTube does, but with audio instead of video. If there was a YouTube for audio, I would be there, but there isn't. That's the problem. It all comes down to differences in the business model. There are podcast hosting sites out there, but the way they market themselves is as a storage company. You get X amount of storage free. So you have a size limit on the amount of stuff you can upload. And then afterwards, you got to start paying more and more per month. It's like file hosting on the internet. YouTube doesn't operate that way. YouTube gets it in terms of letting individuals express themselves creatively. YouTube is more like a media business. Running, there's a little something called the flywheel of media between revenue, audience, and content, where it creates a feedback loop. You find a way to generate revenue, and then that revenue either purchases or allows for content, which hopefully grows the audience, and you go back and you negotiate for higher amounts of revenue, and the wheel keeps spinning and spinning and spinning. We could do an entire RadioStyle segment on how media businesses operate, but that's the big difference between YouTube and other hosting sites, is that the podcast hosting sites act like online storage. YouTube acts more like a radio or TV station with how they do business. And because of that, that's why there are so many so-called videos on YouTube that are basically someone talking with a picture where the image would normally go. That phenomenon will probably drop way off, except for the huge potential audience on YouTube, if there ever were a YouTube for audio. Hey, Google, maybe this is your next big thing here. Maybe Google should get into making some kind of YouTube for audio to get some of these videos that consist of audio segments with a picture tacked onto them off the site, and have YouTube really be just a video site again. But I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon. So until the landscape changes, I'm just gonna toss these up on YouTube as yet another series on this channel, alongside the vlog, the gaming videos, RadioStyle, the nature videos I do once every blue moon, or I gotta make some more of those. And all the other stuff. I mean, this is just basically a personal channel where I just fill around with audio-visual type stuff, and apparently some people actually like this kind of stuff, but yeah. Okay, we're rambling here, so that's basically what the Multimedia J show is going to be about. Those big, huge discussions that warrant the creation of a full-length podcast that people can tune in and listen to as they do stuff on their PCs, smartphones, etc. That's what the show is all about. Let's move on to some news. In the news this week, oh joy, Microsoft's making a tablet. Yes, folks, we're going to be talking about the Microsoft Surface, named after a previous Microsoft product they tried to make back in 2007. It was going to be like a tabletop computer. Think like the master program in Tron. Yeah, and the guy sitting at the desk and the computer talking bad to him and stuff like that. Yeah, the Microsoft Surface. Microsoft's making a tablet. Some people are like, ooh, ah. Some people think it's going to be an iPad killer or something like that. Me, I'm just shaking my head and planting my face firmly in my palm, because this is the source of so many bad jokes. For example, a new Microsoft product has surfaced. Hey, there's a new Microsoft product on the horizon. It just surfaced last week. Oh man, this is just okay. The real reason why I'm not very enthusiastic about Microsoft making a tablet is because it brings back so many bad memories of the 1990s. During the days of the Windows 9X series, Windows 95, Windows 98, those bad old days when I was in high school, when Windows 98, most notably, would crash under normal use. Then, of course, they really bottomed out with Windows Millennium Edition. Windows ME was kind of like the cherry on top of the awful sundae with the Windows 9X series, before Microsoft finally ditched that DOS-based stuff for good and went to Windows 2000 XP based on the NT and stuff like that. And all that fun alphabet soup computer stuff. Alphabet soup stuff. Anyways, now back during the days of the Windows 9X series, you know, while we were going nuts, those of us trying to use computers back then, and Windows 98 and 95 and whatnot would crash under normal use and generated so many jokes about unreliable computers, while we were putting up with all that nonsense, us geeks consoled ourselves and looked for the silver lining wherever the heck it might have been in the cloud. Well, not the cloud, not like cloud computing or anything, but it's a figure of speech, you know? So we consoled ourselves by saying, you know what? Microsoft Windows is terrible. It crashes under normal use. We can't stand it, but at least Microsoft doesn't make any hardware. Imagine what it would be like if Microsoft ever made a computer. Oops. We should have kept our mouths shut. Fast forward several years and bam! The Xbox 360 and the Red Ring of Death. The Red Ring of Death. Oh man. I hats off to the people that put up with Red Ring on the original 360s before the redesign. I don't know, does the redesign Red Ring? I haven't really followed the whole Red Ring thing since Microsoft redesigned the 360. I'm okay, maybe it's going to be smaller, more power efficient, won't generate as much heat, won't slow roast itself under normal operation. Maybe the Red Ring thing will finally be fixed. I should probably do some checking up on that to see if it really is. Maybe I can finally get a 360 after all these years, if indeed they finally fix that problem. But here's the thing. Red Ring of Death was a dead ringer and gave me very bad flashbacks to Windows 98. Because what did we have with the Red Ring of Death? We had a Microsoft product, this time a piece of hardware, breaking under normal use. It's not like people were trying to fry their 360s or anything. Oh, yeah, I just want to play some Call of Duty. I want to play some Gears of War. I want to play this, that. Boom, red ring of death. Man. That totally reminded me of Windows 98. And so I went around saying that the original 360s were basically the hardware equivalent of Windows 98. But Microsoft wouldn't stop there. No. They just couldn't stop there. They couldn't just have a hardware product that had those kinds of problems. It gave guys like me flashbacks to the Windows 9X days. No. They had to go out and make a full-blown computer. A computer! Now, okay, here you go. We finally have a Microsoft computer coming onto the market. Let's cross our fingers and hope the world doesn't explode in a giant fireball. Actually, I'm thinking the Surface might end up as the Zune as another Zune in terms of being supposedly an Apple product killer. Yeah, we all know how the Zune did against the iPod. So, I believe Zune hardware has been discontinued, if I remember right. But yeah, I'm thinking another Zune here. Unless Microsoft really surprises everyone with the Surface tablet, I'm thinking it just might be the tablet equivalent. It might be to the iPad what the Zune was to the iPod. I don't really have high hopes for it. Another big reason why I'm chuckling at the Surface tablet is because of Windows 8. This device is supposed to come out around the time Windows 8 goes to market. And I just can't help but think, with the path that Windows 8 is on, is the Surface some kind of silicon parachute for Microsoft so they will actually sell copies of Windows 8? Because, as you know, those of you who watch my videos on YouTube will know, Windows 8 is, and there are numerous articles out there that agree with me on this, Windows 8 is very, very, very well on its way to being the next Vista. It changes too much, and it's just too clunky. I've tried to use it. I wanted to like it. I wanted, finally, for Microsoft to have an OS that really gets the times here, because, as we're about to talk about with the post-PC era, times have changed in the computing world. There are lots of devices out there nowadays sharing the stage with traditional form factors of PCs. And I was hoping that Windows 8 would finally be that jack-of-trades operating system that lets Windows adapt to all these new devices besides desktops and laptops and run on all different types of hardware. But unfortunately, I'm just not seeing that. What I've seen from the Windows 8 consumer preview and now the release preview is the device is the operating system abandoning traditional PCs too much and just favoring alternative technologies way more than your typical keyboard, mouse, etc. And it's actually very clunky to use on a traditional PC versus Windows 7. Very clunky. So, I don't know. Maybe the Surface tablet will be what saves Win 8 and actually makes it so that the OS actually sells. Because I don't really have high hopes for Win 8 elsewhere, especially if Windows 7 is still on the market. Hopefully Microsoft doesn't force people to upgrade to Windows 8 via their product support life cycles and discontinuing them for Windows 7. Personally, I think Microsoft should have Windows 7 for traditional PCs and then Windows 8 for everything else. Take the numbers off and just have those be the two versions of Windows, one for traditional devices and the corporate world, because corporate IT is very different than consumer IT. Corporate IT administrators don't like to take the kinds of risks and do the kind of experimenting that individuals like you or I like to do if we fiddle with technology and whatnot. I could do a whole RadioStyle segment on the differences between corporate IT and consumer IT. So let's not spend a lot of time talking about it here. But I really think Microsoft should change their product catalog and have basically a traditional version of Windows and Windows 8 for everything else. Or even just combine the two. That's really all it's missing. They just need more support for traditional PCs in Windows 8 and it'll be fine. But I'm just not seeing that. Two separate pre-release preview versions of Windows 8. I haven't seen it. So now that I hear they're making a tablet, I can only wonder, are they trying to do this because they see what's coming with Win 8 and they want it to sell somewhere? Or is something else going on behind the scenes? Anyways, a new Microsoft product has surfaced. Laugh it up, folks. Microsoft's making a tablet, and it'll be very interesting to see how this all pans out when the tablet, supposedly it's supposed to go to market later this year, along with Windows 8. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with the Microsoft Surface. When we come back, the alleged post-PC era. I've been meaning to talk about this for a long time, and I'm finally going to be able to do it. Stay tuned, folks. This is the Multimedia J Show.
Multimedia J. Summer's heating up. Why can't your baked beans heat up with it? Well, now they can. New from the makers of Thunder Dude Baked Beans. It's Thunder Dude Baked Beans Inferno! All the big, bold taste and nutritional benefits of baked beans, plus heat, and more heat, as much as your tongue can possibly take. Choose from one of 3 different levels of heat intensity. Hot, very hot, and oh my god, call the fire department, my tongue's on fire. If you love baked beans and love hot, spicy food, you will love Thunder Dude Baked Beans Inferno. Try it today, if you dare. Thunder Dude Baked Beans. Life is fun when you feel the thunder.
Hey listeners, in addition to what you just heard, Cheap Chaps Enterprises would like to remind our listening audience that Thunder Dude Baked Beans are on sale this week at Cheap Chaps Supermarkets. Buy one, get one free, and any customer who buys 10 or more cans of Thunder Dude Baked Beans in a single visit to the supermarket can enter into a drawing to win 2 free tickets to see Woof, I'm a Bird, the funny new musical at the Daytona Performing Arts Center. That's 2 free tickets to Woof, I'm a Bird at the Daytona Performing Arts Center that customers can win by buying 10 or more cans of Thunder Dude Baked Beans when they shop at Cheap Chaps Supermarkets. Cheap Chaps Enterprises. If it says Cheap Chap, buy it, because it's sure to be cheap. Chap, now back to the show.
This is the Multimedia J Show. And now, the man himself, Multimedia J.
All right. Enough beating around the bush. Enough putting this off. Enough waiting and planning without ever taking any action. It's time to discuss the alleged post-PC era. This is something that I've been hearing about as tablets have taken off like a rocket and done a lot of stuff to the tech world as we know it. I've heard argument after argument after argument, pro and con on both sides of the debate, but I haven't chimed in on it myself. That is completely unacceptable, and that is going to change right here and right now, because it's getting to the point where I think if I don't say something about this argument about an alleged post-PC era, I may have to stop considering myself a techie, because this is definitely a watershed moment in the development of technology, as well as the whole computing world. And post-PC era, yeah, it's something that's being tossed around a lot these days. But personally, I think it's a load of crapola. But let's get into our discussion on that. Now, some people speak of a post-PC era, and some even have the audacity to use the term the death of the PC. Poke around, Google search, take a look, see what people are saying, both pro and con, to this whole phenomenon that's going on with all these portable devices, tablets, etc. And you will eventually run into either the discussion of a post-PC era or the death of the PC. So the question remains, where do I stand on this? Well, interestingly enough, this post-PC debacle has gotten me to agree with Microsoft on something. I'm usually not a huge fan of Microsoft, but in this case, I couldn't agree more. A while back, 2010 or so, I think, Steve Ballmer was being interviewed about, in an interview talking about tablets, the iPad, and all these devices that are changing the computing world right before our very eyes. And he said something, this clip's on YouTube, so poke around long enough and you'll eventually find it, and I'll see if I can put a link to it in the show notes. But Steve Ballmer actually made a very good point that he wasn't asked directly, is there a post-PC era? But the question was very much passive-aggressive against traditional PCs. And his response was very interesting. He made the point that PCs would change and morph form factors, but as far as going away, no. PCs will change with the times, as they must, because times do indeed change. But there will be personal computing devices out there somewhere that people will be doing their personal computing with. And I couldn't agree more. There's a little something out there called form factors. PCs have form factors, but form factors do not encapsulate what it means for something to be a PC. So this gets to our first, when you're dealing with the topic of an alleged post-PC era, the very first question is, what is a PC? And PC, of course, stands for personal computer. So then your question needs to be, what is a computer? And here's the quick and dirty answer to that question. A computer, this is going to sound so rudimentary, is anything we use to compute things or crunch numbers. Duh, if it computes things, it's a computer. What the word computer has meant all kinds of things over the past 50 years or so. So there is no one specific device that really encapsulates what it means to be a computer. A computer has been all kinds of things since computers first surfaced after World War II. And a computer does not have to be a stereotypical PC. My grandfather, the very last job he had at the end of his career was as a computer operator when the firm he was working at started messing around with those early computers that took up entire rooms. In the early days of computing, computers were big machines that took up whole rooms. He had a job where he had to keep everything running. He had to load tapes and drums, and he had to wheel around giant stacks of tractor feed paper for all the printouts and all that other fun stuff. Do we still have computers like that nowadays? Not really. You could say that some servers are like that. Some servers are huge and take up entire rooms, or you could have rooms full of servers. But I guess the old days of the ENIAC, the UNIVAC, etc. have come and gone. But the term computer nowadays, you could talk to somebody, you could show them a picture of a giant big black mainframe server and whatnot, be like, oh yeah, this big black box here, that's computer. They're like, huh? It looks like a giant steel cabinet, not necessarily a computer. But yeah, the definition of computer has changed. What people think a computer is has changed over the past 30 years, and it can change again very easily, and that is the point here. Computers in the days before the IBM PCs were devices that you bought, some with or without built-in keyboards that you would actually hook up to your television, and you could use a television as the display for it. Then, of course, we had the desktop PCs become standardized, and then eventually, in the minds of the general public, computers were basically desktops. But even while that was going on, people would still use the term computer to apply to all different things besides your traditional desktops and laptops. In high school and college, I encountered two very specific instances where people were using the term computer very liberally to apply to something other than a traditional computer. First, like many geeks, I, at one point, used a TI graphing calculator as a computer. Yeah, I started out high school, and yeah, algebra didn't really require a graphing calculator, but I had one when I started high school with, and I was programming all kinds of stuff on that thing. I was programming programs, tried programming some games, even a text-based RPG, even a truck driving RPG. Sadly, though, some sticky-fingered kleptomaniac whatever stole my calculator and sold it for drug money, as I found out later. But during that brief amount of time I had that TI graphing calculator, I was treating it like a computer. And some people were saying, hey, computer nerd, what's that, your own handheld computer and stuff like that? And actually, there was a time when we were bored in class, and we were looking at this academic graphing calculator catalog that our math teacher had that listed the various types of TI calculators, the TI-80, TI-82. I think there was like a TI-90-something as well, but the really high-end model for really advanced mathematics, no, the folks I was there with, they looked at it and they said, wow, man, now that's a computer. Because it was big enough that it kind of looked like a portable computer. It was, even though it was a calculator. So that's one example where people use the term computer very loosely to refer to something other than a desktop or a laptop. Another time was in college. One time I decided I'm a regular connoisseur of Casio calculator watches, like what Michael J. Fox wears in Back to the Future and stuff like that. I like wearing geek watches like that. Plus, having a calculator as part of your watch is pretty handy. I do inventory at my current job, and it's fun not having to lug a calculator around because I'm wearing one. And in the supermarket, I can do some quick number crunching to see if a sale price is really a sale price, geeky stuff like that. But one time in college, I got one of those Casio calculator watches. Some folks saw me walking around with it, and they're like, "What's that? A little computer so you can do computing stuff while you're taking a dump in the bathroom?" Like, come on. But again, people referred to something as a computer that wasn't a traditional desktop or laptop. We know this stuff happens, and it still happens to this day. So why in the world are people suddenly so narrow-minded that when desktops and laptops start sharing the stage with other types of devices, people start screaming, "The death of the PC is upon us"? Why? Yes, folks, it's true and it's undeniable. Desktops and laptops have dominated the computing world for decades. But the dominance of desktop and laptop form factors is what set the tone for this social ad populum belief that a desktop or a laptop equals a computer. But as I've given two examples already, even before tablets took off, of people referring to something other than a desktop or a laptop as a computer. It does happen. The dominance of these are form factors we're talking about, folks. They're form factors. They don't encapsulate what it means for something to be a computer. Now, today, one can gain the benefits of a personal computer from numerous devices besides traditional desktop or laptop PCs. There have been other cases where some devices have moved so close to being computers that the manufacturers of those devices attempted to deliberately cripple their own products to prevent them from being used as computers. One big example in recent years is Linux on gaming consoles. I remember there was PS2 Linux because the fat PS2, the original one, had a hard drive port. I mean, what did we have? We had a game box with a processor, a graphics system, input devices, USB ports for Pete's sake, that could be rigged up with a hard drive and a broadband adapter to connect to the internet. Sounds like a computer, doesn't it? Computers and gaming consoles and televisions and home theater and home entertainment have moved so closely together that some folks have tried to put Linux on all kinds of stuff that isn't what people would consider a computer. I remember a couple of years ago when the PS3 first came out, Sony actually tried to make some changes to the PS3 to stop people from putting Linux on it. Why? Why should Sony even care about that kind of stuff? I mean, can you use a PS3 as a computer? It's a device. It has a processor, a graphics system, built-in hard drive, connects to the internet, and even has USB ports for peripherals. Why not? And what's stopping other gaming consoles? Even the Wii has USB ports. What's stopping other gaming consoles from being treated as computers since they pretty much are computers? So there's just so many different ways that people can gain the benefit of some kind of personal computing device besides traditional desktops and laptop PCs. Why suddenly do people become all narrow-minded and say, oh, post-PC era, just because the term personal computer, after decades of desktops and laptops running the show, is now closer to its raw meaning than ever, describing a personal device that computes stuff for someone. If anything, we've gone back to a more honest and upfront definition of what a personal computer is. Why say that, the death of the PC? Death of the PC, hogwash. There are just more choices for personal computers available than ever before. And it's not like this has never been tried either. There were attempts at making other form factors of computers to share the stage with desktops and laptops. And it wasn't just netbooks either. Remember Palm Tops, Palm Pilots, PDAs, other things like that? People could use those as computing devices on the go, but they didn't really have the hardware punch to really do some of the things that full-size computers were doing. Well, now, in the days of smartphones and tablets, we've got this stuff. So why are people saying death of the PC? It makes no sense. There's more choices available for someone to have a personal computer than ever before. I just can't wrap my head around that. So at the core here is, what does it mean for something to be a computer? We've described that. A personal computer is a personal device that computes stuff for people. So with this kind of stuff going on, why declare a post-PC era at all then? Well, I can give one probably very wild guess here. Money. A lot of the folks that I'm seeing declaring a post-PC era to be upon us and saying that the death of the PC is imminent seem to be part of some kind of large company that could make some money off of it. Oh yes, here we go again. Dollars and cents, as usual. For the corporate so-called visionaries talking about a post-PC era, it's all about the money. See, folks, what we have here today is an industry that has changed royally since PCs first popped onto the scene. Desktop PCs in the early days of PCs were sold like major appliances. Everything was done through the computer company. You're like, I want a Commodore, I want an Apple, I want this, I want that. You went out, you bought your computer. If you wanted more parts or upgrading things, you went back to the computer manufacturer. It was like buying a dishwasher or a washer and dryer. It was a big investment. You went out and bought it from the computer company and went back to the computer company afterwards for support, service, things like that, etc. To this day, Apple with the Macintosh seems to be the only company that still really is clinging to that business model, because everywhere else it went away a long time ago, and that's part of the reason, I'll bet, why some people want PCs to die, or traditional PCs, I should say. I got to get out of the habit of doing that myself, calling desktops and laptops PCs and whatnot. Technology matured, industrial standards were developed like ATX for desktops in 1995, and eventually by the time I started getting into computer hardware in the early 2000s, proprietary had become a swear word among techies who built their own computers, because standardized industrial standards, standardized parts, replaceable parts, lots of customer empowerment. These are all things that'll drive down the price of computers, and prices for computers indeed have dropped. In our day and age, thanks to all this consumer empowerment via replaceable parts and industry standards, there's just far less money to be made selling computers. As a great example of this, take a look at every single computer company, quote unquote, out there. Where are they now? They're either gone, they've been bought out, or they're selling something other than computers. There's just no money left in selling computers anymore. IBM got out of the PC business and sold their assets to Lenovo. HP Compaq, HP acquired Compaq, but HP already had a successful printer business. Some people were like, how come HP's making computers back when HP first started making computers? They have a successful printer business. They also sell other stuff as well. But as far as HP goes, HP nowadays, they can do other things besides sell computers if they ever want to exit the industry. Gateway, Dell, and Apple branched off into consumer electronics. I remember one bummed out Mac user one time posted on some forum, oh, well, Apple's an iPod company now. Yeah, Apple kind of has, they've got other types of consumer electronics that are doing better than the Macintosh ever did, market share-wise, in the PC world. Look at the iPod, look at the iPad, look at the iPhone. Look at all these electronic devices they've launched that now are big heavyweights in their respective industries, as opposed to the Macintosh versus the PC. I mean, then you got Dell selling electronics. At one point, I thought Dell was trying to copy Newegg with having lots of electronic stuff available besides computers and other stuff. And then there's Gateway televisions. Enough said. I mean, all these computer companies are now selling stuff other than computers, because there's no money left in selling computers to people anymore. Computers have been traditional PCs, I should say, have become so commoditized that there's no money really in selling them. It's just been a giant race to the bottom. Either somebody needs a cheap $300 Walmart special or something, or they're building their own super gaming rig or something like that. As far as traditional computers go, the money's gone. On top of that, there's far less money to be made these days servicing computers. The people are wondering, hey, Jay, how come you don't fix computers for a living? Because guess where I can fix computers for a living, besides, of course, a brown box shop or something like that, which in this neck of the woods is usually a super small business that somebody runs out of their basement or their garage. You know where I could fix computers for a living? $9 an hour as a Staples Easy Tech? big box retail has pretty much ruined PC repair as a career. I mean, oh yeah, you got these folks with no computer background, don't even need to get A+ certification, getting hired as computer techs, and then you're giving them a job that doesn't even involve a lot of fixing computers. It's more like sales and selling, and sell somebody an extended warranty or something like that. And then, of course, you have Best Buy. I read something a while back where Best Buy was experimenting with outsourcing any and all hardware work that the Geek Squad used to do. The folks in the stores would do like virus removals and stuff like that. And then if there was anything that had to be physically done to the computer, they'd ship it off to a repair depot and have a centralized repair depot instead of a hardware tech in every store. I mean, just a giant race to the bottom on PC repair. Plus, PCs are often so cheap nowadays that it may not even be worth it to get them fixed. You know, my last job prior to the one I have now, I actually got to work with some tech recycling and see some of the stuff that's being thrown away in terms of old computers and e-waste. And I cannot believe some of the stuff that I saw in those recycling pallets and Gaylords. I mean, even computers that are less than 2 years old were ending up getting recycled because someone spilled coffee in them or something like that, or maybe the power button wore out or something really dumb, or maybe they got a little scuff on their screen or something like that. Oh, get rid of the whole thing, get another throwaway laptop, you know. So the money's gone in the computing world. Computers, you just basically sell parts, so that's basically it. Every single computer company is out there selling something other than computers, and then you got people who fix computers for a living, either running the business out of their garage or working at a big box retailer who's trying to do a giant race to the bottom money-wise with that too. So what's the tech world gonna do? Well, there's an answer for that. It's easy, really. The way you get past all of these developments in the world of traditional PCs is to bypass traditional PCs altogether. Reintroduce devices with more proprietary stuff that customers can't build, that customers can't fix, that they can't replace with replaceable parts. Just bring down the hammer. And that's what we have with cheap laptops, netbooks, and now tablets, the iPad, the iPhone, the iPod. Back when the iPod first started up, one of the reasons why I never wound up getting an iPod for a music player was because there was an incident where someone had an iPod and the battery died after 11 months. And Apple was going to charge them hundreds of dollars to replace it because the battery wasn't user replaceable without voiding the warranty. That was just, oh man. So that was just an example of some of the stuff that some of these companies can be expected to do today. It is in the tech companies' best interest financially to make expensive proprietary stuff cool again. Bring back the old business model and bring back the good old days, at least on their end, where nobody could build or fix anything on their own. Never mind the fact that the economy's terrible, people don't have any money, and it's so easy for someone to build a computer. You don't even need an electronics background to build a computer. There's no soldering. There's nothing. If you can plug a Nintendo card, not even Nintendo, if you can plug a Genesis cartridge into a Nintendo, snap stuff together, you can build a computer. Just make sure it's all compatible. You know what goes with what and where. Your grounding strap. It is just so easy to build a machine these days, but no, tech companies, they gotta make lots of money off of people, raise that average revenue per consumer. So what do? You bypass traditional computers and declare that traditional computing is on its way out, when there's just no evidence that PCs have to go anywhere because of all these portable devices. But I imagine some people, it's in their best interest to try and get people to shun the technology where consumers are more empowered and things like that. So voila! Cheap laptops, netbooks, and now tablets, with companies pushing portable stuff all over the place to get people to get away from those PCs because they let the animal out of the cage, and consumers can build their own, they can fix their own machines, and they don't have to buy, that's where the money is now. Get people to want to buy more expensive stuff. That is why we're hearing about a post-PC era. Somebody has the potential somewhere to make some money off of it. And if nothing is done about it, that's exactly what's going to happen. So let's look at the antithesis of this whole post-PC, death of the PC thing, and ask ourselves, do traditional PCs have a future? Can desktops and laptops hang on or even stick around? Yes. Let's look at some of the hard numbers here and the hard facts. Desktops, for example, have very much the potential to remain an enthusiast product and handy all-purpose device that they already are. A desktop is going to be the fastest computer you can get without buying a server, handy for heavy-duty number crunching, video editing, gaming, home theater PCing, etc. Hardware enthusiasts can still build their own computers for fun and service them to not have to mess with proprietary parts. I mean, I still build my main system for editing videos, editing audio, storage, etc. I still have one jack of trades desktop around. The other stuff I have is more specialized, and I'm more open to alternatives to traditional PCs for mobile stuff, things on the go, etc. And then there's gaming. Most devices will play some games, even the iPad's playing games these days, but the best experience you're going to get with the highest end hardware is still going to be a gaming desktop to play the newest games at the highest game settings. Yeah, sure, we have some really nice consoles out there these days, but console hardware only changes once every couple of years or so. So at the end of a life cycle of a console, you can either wait for the next console to get your upgrade to your gaming experience, or you can gradually upgrade a gaming PC and play PC games. I mean, why wait for those big jumps in console generations when you can just upgrade stuff yourself? Plus, I've fiddled around with getting older games to look better too, like Morrowind with some of the graphical mods and things like that. I mean, these are just things you cannot do on a console, and you're certainly not going to be able to do on a portable device like a tablet. Somebody, one of the articles I've read about the alleged post-PC thing actually made the point that, yeah, you can use a tablet for some things big computers do, but that's just like you can dig a hole in your backyard with a teaspoon. It's doable, but not advised. So, lastly, heat generation. Portable devices are on their way to hitting a wall with heat generation when they get too fast. For example, shortly after the most recent iPad launched, The Consumerist had an article about what I like to call the hot potato iPad, that there's so much power in these newer iPads that they can actually get very warm, almost warm enough to be uncomfortable to hold when they're doing heavy-duty stuff. I imagine at some point that's probably going to happen to tablets if we don't find ways to make faster computers that run cooler, because yeah, hot potato tablet, definitely. Laptops have this problem too. Some high-end laptops out there haven't been able to be quote-unquote laptops for years because you'll burn your thighs or something if you actually try and use them, if you actually try to put the computer in your lap. So hot laptops haven't been able to be quote-unquote laptops for years. So heat generation could be an issue with these devices. Lastly, the laptops will still serve as full-fledged PCs on the go. So in situations where you don't need the full capability of a PC on the go, you could just use your tablet or something like that. And then when you do, you need then you can look at a laptop. But that's no different than what they already were doing. That's basically the way laptops have always worked. You always gave up some of the ease of service and stuff of a desktop, got a little more proprietary, but at least you could take the thing on the road. So, anyways, those are the numbers on traditional PCs and how they can have a future. Now, as far as peripherals go, with the whole touchscreen thing that is, of course, driving the tablet revolution, there's also keyboards and mice have a future too. For example, tactile feedback and touch typing are one of the reasons keyboards aren't going anywhere, because you can't touch type with a virtual keyboard. Why do you think they call it touch typing? Because you're supposed to be able to type without looking at the keyboard. So you're looking at what you want to type, and your fingers are moving, and you're typing it because you know where to move your fingers on the keyboard. Touch typing. So, and I remember some folks when the iPhone first came out complaining about how hard it was to type with the virtual keyboard and having to hit 3 buttons to type a semicolon or something like that. So there will always be a place for keyboards because touch typing has its uses. And then, of course, as far as mice go, costs in gaming can keep mice around. Mice are really cheap, couple of bucks for the cheapest mice out there. And, yeah, sure, you can swap a mouse with a touchscreen monitor, but are there any circumstances where the touchscreen version of a monitor only costs a couple dollars more than the non-touchscreen version? Plus, there might be situations where you don't want a touchscreen monitor because you don't want to get fingerprints all over it and stuff. Mice make highly intuitive game controllers for certain genres of PC games too, like real-time strategy games and first-person shooter games. Mice are just so intuitive, even compared to dual thumbsticks on today's controllers. So there's definitely a future, even though keyboards and mice are considered old school, just like traditional PCs. I think there's still going to be room for them on the computing stage, just like there'll be room for them on the PC stage. Which brings us to our very last point here. As much as I want to be fair and say that we shouldn't count out traditional PCs just yet, and even though traditional PCs aren't doomed, we should still embrace alternative forms of computers and find uses for them, because consumer choice is the name of the game here. Whatever someone needs computing-wise, there's a computer type available for them. One example of this is I can imagine a new form factor for computers coming from the upcoming Wii U console, because the Wii U has that controller with the screen built in and things like that. Now, from that, I can totally imagine, and the screen becomes part of the controller if you're using a big screen, and it becomes your game screen when you don't have a television or something like that. It's kind of like what they did with the Nintendo DS and the second screen on there. But I can totally imagine a type of computer coming out of the Wii U's design where it would be like the rational next step with like what people are doing with smartphones, tablets, etc., where they cross over with computers enough to replace a traditional PC. We might see something like this. Imagine a computer where the user has a portable touchscreen device for when they're on the go. But when they get home and they want to put all their stuff up on the big screen, they plug in a cable, drop it in a dock, although I'm thinking cable more than anything else. Then the portable device becomes an input device of some sort for what's on the big screen. The big screen may or may not be a touch screen if they don't want to get their fingerprints all over it, etc. And traditional keyboards and mice are still available. See, that is consumer choice right there. That is, whatever type of computer you want, it's there, go and get it. But ultimately, the final word in the discussion on the alleged post-PC era is this. What needs to happen is consumers need to continue to have a say in the world of personal computing and not have their computing choices be dictated by people and organizations who are just in it for the money. Do I believe the death of the PC is imminent? No. Because a PC is not a desktop or a laptop. Desktops and laptops are form factors. They don't encapsulate what it means for something to be a personal computer. But I am open to the idea that folks in business may want to make more money off of people by trying to get them to use more proprietary hardware through these portable devices. But is there a future for traditional PCs? Yes, don't expect them to die anytime soon. They will share the stage with lots of other devices for people's personal computing needs. But I don't anticipate the kind of computer Mageddon that some people have been talking about, writing articles about, landing in the news about, talking about in interviews, etc., etc., etc. I just don't see it happening, I should say. Wow, man, I really need to work on finishing these points properly. Anyways, it's about time to wrap things up here on this first episode of the MultimediaJay Show. Thanks for listening, folks, and be sure to check out the video description. If you're watching this via an embedded site or something else, be sure to check out the video description on YouTube for a list of all the segments if you want to skip from segment to segment to listen to bits and pieces of this later, as well as links to relevant articles and other things that'll be in the show notes. Until next time, folks, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for listening, and thanks for stopping by.
MultimediaJay.